We are live.
We are now live.
School. I am the chair of our Stress Busters Committee, which is under the PTSA and under the counseling department. And we help both students, faculty, and parents de-stress with activities, presentations, author events. And when we're in session, we like to do things for the kids, like give out hot chocolate and anything that helps to de-stress during these times. So it looks like 46% are in 11th grade, 10th grade 40%, and then 9th 18, and 12th 7%. So thank you for participating. Again, my name is Rachel with Whitman. We are welcome also with Walter Johnson High School and BCC High School. This is an annual event. So let's kick it off by introducing our speaker. We are so excited to have Chris Wild join us from Colleges That Change Lives. Chris is a board director of the nonprofit, and he is going to be our soothing voice tonight, calming us down with the frenzy of the admissions process. So Chris, why don't you take it away, and we will be excited to hear what you have to say. And I'm also joined by Betsy and Beth, who are part of the Whitman community as well on Stress Busters. So they'll be producing in the back. So, all right, Chris, welcome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. There we go. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be here with you guys tonight and share a little bit more about kind of de-stressing the college search process and really kind of focusing on the journey within college as more so than the destination. So I'm giving you some tips and tools about how to go about your college search. So just a little bit about myself by way of background. As Rachel mentioned, I am one of the board directors of the nonprofit Colleges That Change Lives, and I'll talk more about the organization towards the end of the presentation. I also serve as the associate director of admissions at Goucher College up in Baltimore, Maryland. If you're looking at Goucher or considering Goucher, you might see me there, and I do use he, him, and his pronouns. I want to start by talking a little bit about my own college search. I was the first in my family to go to college, so really didn't know what I was doing, and really was just kind of going on kind of gut. And so I only ended up applying to one school, Mount St. Mary's in Emmitsburg, Maryland, which is a liberal arts college, but I didn't know what that meant. So I accidentally went to a liberal arts college, and only after graduating from college did I really learn really what that meant and kind of the value of that liberal arts college experience. And all of the members of the Colleges That Change Lives organization are liberal arts colleges, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. I've probably in my 8 years of being in the college admissions profession given hundreds and hundreds of presentations about the college search process. And I just want to say, I don't have a magic wand to make this process easier. I can't wave a magic wand and here's the silver bullet of how to get through this college search process as easy as possible. But I'm hopeful that throughout this session, we'll be able to kind of give you some tools and ways of kind of taking the stress out of this and kind of really kind of recentering or rethinking about how to search for colleges. I wanted to start this presentation though by kind of addressing the elephant in the room or the elephant around the globe, COVID-19. Your college search process is going to look very different and is looking very different than college search processes in years before. Your transcript is likely going to look different. You might have a combination of grades and pass and no pass grades, of narratives, or a mixture of all of these things as your high schools kind of responded to the pandemic. Your ability to take or retake standardized tests like the SAT or the ACT is likely to be limited. And that's okay. When you look at just the CTCL schools, 42 of our 46 members are test optional. 2 of them are test blind, meaning they don't even want to see them. Don't send them, they're not going to look at them. And in the last year and a half, almost year now, hundreds and hundreds of colleges have gone test optional, not only for the class of 2021, but for 2022, 2023, and 2024. And as someone whose institution has been test optional since 2006 and knows the benefit of not having to worry about SAT or ACT scores when reviewing a student's application to the college, I imagine that many of these institutions will continue to be test optional even after the pandemic. There are some silver linings though here. Schools have enhanced their online offerings in ways that we have never seen before. There are more options for virtual tours, for interviews, for information sessions, meeting community members. And that's all before you have to spend the money to visit a college campus. So you have so many more ways now in your search to engage with colleges, to learn about them, to connect with their community members in ways that didn't exist before. And what you need to remember here is that colleges are really interested in your ability to deal with challenges. COVID-19 is a big challenge. So how you've responded to that challenge, especially at kind of who you are at this point in your life, a 17, 18, 16, 15-year-old, is big and it's been hard. And above all, you have to remember that we're all in this together. As much as you and your families are going through this COVID-19 experience, so are all of the colleges. And so colleges and admissions reps, we understand this, and we're going to be looking at that context within your application. There is a way, though, to take the pandemic and kind of help it to frame some ways of thinking about colleges that you might be interested. So kind of things about what to notice about those colleges. How proactive were they or reactive were they when the pandemic first started out, or as we've continued through it? How did they or how are they helping students if they're virtual, who need a safe shelter, who have housing insecurity? Are the admissions reps at those institutions offering new and creative ways to stay connected? Are current students open to being connected to and contacted by prospective students? What are you hearing from faculty at these institutions? Are they adapting to this new reality? And remember, faculty are people too. They have their own families to worry about, so it might take them a little bit longer. If a college has reopened, what guidelines have they put in place? And have they had a massive outbreak on campus? I'm not saying that you should penalize a college that has an outbreak of COVID, but how big an outbreak is, how long it lasts, says something about the students, says something about how they're managing that process. Are students taking this seriously? Are they looking out and looking out for each other and for the faculty and staff of those institutions? So just some ways to take this challenge that we're all experiencing and help it kind of think about your college search in a different way. So I saw we have a good majority of 11th graders. We also have some pretty big group of 10th graders in there as well. So let's just talk about the start of this college search, now that we've kind of addressed kind of COVID for a little bit. So here's some things that you're probably thinking about. I should be looking at U.S. News and World Report rankings. I should be looking at SEC schools, Ivy schools, Pac-10 schools, public land grants. What else could there be? What about return on investment? What are students going to? What are students when they graduate? What are they doing? Are they getting jobs? Are they getting into grad school? If you're thinking about smaller schools, those schools are too small, right? They're smaller than my high school. Can you even do science at a liberal arts college? Or my personal favorite, these schools are only for liberals, which is not true of the liberal arts. Or my personal favorite, no one has heard of these schools, no one anywhere ever. And so I want to talk about kind of maybe how to reframe this college search in a way that kind of de-stresses it a little bit. And I want to talk by first addressing kind of the U.S. News and World Report ranking, kind of looking behind the rankings here. U.S. News and Report is probably the biggest one that most folks know about in terms of their kind of rankings of colleges. And it's natural for us to want to rank things. We love, particularly here in the US, to rank and rate things. We rate products on Amazon, and we write on Yelp, and movies on Rotten Tomatoes. We rate our Lyft and our Uber driver after we get out of the car. And so that kind of wanting a ranking is important. But how do you determine what these how you determine is what about these rankings rank? Are these important values and weights for your family? When we look at something like student excellence, about 8% of that rank is test scores. About 3% of that is class rank. Are you coming from a school that doesn't class rank? Are you coming from, are test scores and class rank, are those the most important things in your criteria? Is the rate of someone, the percentage of their alumni giving, is that important to you in your criteria of what a college looks like, or what a college does to serve your needs? But what is missing from this list? Are there elements of the college experience that are more important than, say, test scores and class rank in making that college decision? So I want to offer you maybe another tool of assessing colleges. And we call this tool is the Gallup-Purdue Index, or the GPI. And this is a report that was done back in 2015, and it was a survey of over 30,000 college graduates from across the United States with a bachelor's degree or higher. And what it sought to do was assess alumni perceptions of their undergraduate experiences and how those experiences related to their well-being and later their job quality in life. And so ultimately it was seeking to answer this question of, is college worth it? And so how did the Gallup-Purdue Index define value, and what does it measure? Well, it measured these 5 areas of well-being, this idea of purpose well-being. Do you like what you do every day? Are you motivated to achieve your goals? Social well-being. Do you have strong and supportive relationships in your life? Financial well-being. Are you effectively managing your economic life? Are you able to provide for yourself, your families, reduce stress, and increase your security? What about your community well-being? The sense of engagement you have in the areas that you live. Do you like where you live? Do you feel safe? Do you have pride in your community? And then lastly, physical well-being. Do you have good health? Do you have a sense, enough energy to get things done on a daily basis? And so this Gallup-Purdue Index was trying to measure these kind of 5 areas of well-being within the alumni of all of these 30,000 plus institutions. So what did they find? Well, ultimately, they found that the type of school alumni went to, whether it was public or private, small or large, very selective, less selective, was far less likely to be related to the quality of an alumni's life after they graduated than the experiences that they had in college. So it's not so much about where they went, about the size, about whether it was public or private, whether they admitted 5% of the students that applied or 75% of the students applied. It was more about the experiences that they had in college that led to their well-being after graduation. And so if it's not about the type, what are the experiences that are important? So here's their kind of key measurement areas that kind of correlated to, if you said X about the institution that you went to, you were more likely to have those kind of areas of well-being. So the professor cared about me as a person. You were almost 2 times more likely to say that you agreed that going to that school was worth the cost. So professor caring about you, having a professor that makes you excited about learning, getting engaged in extracurricular activities, taking on leadership positions, having a mentor who encouraged you to pursue your goals, your dreams, working on a long-term project that took a semester or more to complete, an internship or a job that allowed you to apply what you were learning in the classroom, or even just having a paid job or an internship on campus. So these are the things that smaller liberal arts colleges, and specifically CTCL member institutions, are really well known for. So if it maybe isn't looking at, what are the test scores and class rank of these students coming into an institution, does the institution really offer these things? That ability to get to know your professors, to have experiential opportunities, to engage in long-term research or projects or work. And because these things will, according to the Gallup-Purdue Index, lead to a well-lived life where you have that financial, that social, that emotional, that physical, that community well-being, those 5 areas of well-being that we walked through earlier. There's another tool, the National Survey of Student Engagement, or NSSE, that is a great tool for understanding more about institutions. And some institutions may not post their results online, but many do. And so you might not see this on every college's website. And so NSSE is this great survey that looks at students in their first year and in their last year of college, and asks them questions about their college experience. And it's ultimately trying to kind of estimate how undergraduates are spending their time and what they're getting from going to the college that they're going to. And so the surveys, the results of this kind of represent these confirmed good practices that students who go to institutions that have these good practices tend to do well in life, tend to get that strong return on investment. And so what are these quote unquote good practices that NSSE looks for? Well, one of them are kind of these 4 engagement indicators. This idea of academic challenge. What does the classroom environment look like? Is it lecture? Is it seminar? Is it hands-on? Are students asked to build on their prior learning and their experiences? This other area of kind of learning with their peers. Is there an emphasis on group work? Is a variety of perspective available? Is the campus diverse? Racially, geographically, gender identity, politically, socioeconomically? The third area, these kind of idea of experiences with faculty. Do you get to engage with the faculty? Are they the ones teaching the classes? Or is it teaching assistants? Or is it research or independent study? And lastly, this idea of the campus environment. Are students encouraged to engage with one another outside the classroom? Are there appropriate supports for students personally and academically? The other thing that they look at are these kind of high impact practices: service learning, learning community, research with faculty, internships and field experience, study abroad, and then some sort of culminating senior experience. These are known to directly contribute to persistence in graduation. So asking yourself, does an institution offer these? Does this institution offer study abroad? Does it offer research opportunities? Does it offer service learning? Because these things, again, create opportunities for those institutions' graduates. There's some other important outcomes that you might want to consider. Something like here's some samples from the CTCL institutions. Fulbright scholarships, 42. Fulbright is a scholarship program offering research and study and teaching opportunities in over 140 countries to recent grads and graduate students. 42 of our institutions in 2019 had Fulbright scholars, and 26 of those 42 were cited as a top producer of Fulbright scholars in 2019. There's the Watson Fellowship, a grant for purposeful independent exploration outside the United States. We had 6 members in 2018. Gilman Scholars, a great grant program that enables students of limited financial means to study or intern abroad, thereby gaining skills critical to our national security and economic competitiveness. Why are these factors important? Why should this matter to you and to your families? And really it's because, we often hear about only a select number of institutions that frankly reject the majority of applicants that apply. Like, we hear about the same old 6 or 5 institutions year after year after year, but that's not the reality of most colleges in the United States. CTCL member institutions and other liberal arts colleges are inclusive in their admissions rate. The average admission rate to these colleges and universities is about 65%, which is also just the national average for 4-year colleges and universities. So this myth that you're not going to get into college doesn't really exist. I mean, the reality is that you are in the driver's seat of this process. Most colleges admit approximately 65% of the students that apply. Not 5%, not 2%, not 1%, 65%. So you're in the driver's seat here. So it's not so much this question of, will I get in, but where I will go. How will I use some of these other tools and metrics that I've kind of talked about, the NSSE survey, the Gallup-Purdue Index, as ways of measuring your college search? So I have some questions here. These are questions to consider asking as you're going about your college search process that relate to these kind of key metrics of assessing a college's effectiveness in its graduates and getting jobs, internships, living successful lives. So do professors care about individual students? Is mentoring valued and considered as part of the tenure process? Sorry, I'm getting text messages. Oh, no, sorry. I thought it was maybe one of the folks telling me something was going wrong with the presentation here. Is mentoring valued and considered as part of the tenure process? So when colleges are considering faculty for tenure, are they taking into account mentoring, working closely with students? How does the school talk about mentoring? Again, that faculty taking an interest in you, long-term opportunities for research. Those are things that lead to success after college. Are the faculty excited about teaching? Are they there because they want to teach, or are they there because they want to do research and the college pays them enough money that they can do their research and kind of have some TAs teach their classes? Are they teaching undergrads? What kind of long-term collaborative work opportunities exist? They talk about this type of experience and partnerships between students and students and faculty. And when is this opportunity available? Is it available all throughout students' 4-year experience, or is it something that's only available to a select few? When are those opportunities offered? Do students get involved on campus and in the community? How does the school support internships? Are there opportunities for leadership and not just for that stellar student? Do they have fraternities and sororities? How does that factor into campus life? And how many students do a paid internship or have a job while they're at the institution? So these are just some questions that kind of get at a lot of, again, that kind of analysis that those surveys, the Gallup-Purdue Index, the NSSE survey, are kind of asking of these institutions. So just something that you might want to consider in kind of asking these questions as you're visiting with colleges, whether virtually or in person, seeing if they offer some of these high impact practices. I want to talk specifically about kind of why maybe a liberal arts college might be a good fit. And often in the media, kind of the liberal arts degree has been called into question. And so why consider a liberal arts college? Well, because ultimately liberal arts education is about education for a lifetime. It's not just preparing students for one job, but it's really about preparing students for the jobs of the future, those jobs that don't even exist yet, with a broad-based education grounded in skills that last a lifetime. Liberal arts colleges are not just for liberals. It's not just humanities. It's arts and sciences, it's STEM fields, business, economics, all of these things exist. And ultimately, what we seek to do as liberal arts institutions is develop critical thinking skills, the ability to work with one another, interdisciplinary thinking about things in more than just one discipline, building leadership and the ability to follow within our students. Communication skills, whether that's in person or in writing, one-on-one, a small group or a large group, right? Communication being an important skill. Data analysis, something that is a part of just about every job now, and complex problem solving. So these are not only skills that are kind of important for oneself, but frankly, they're also the skills that employers endorse as being important in the college experience. The American Association of Colleges and Universities, along with a company called Hart, asked employers whether colleges and universities should place more or less emphasis or the same emphasis on 17 different learning outcomes in order to help students succeed in today's global economy. What they found was that employers placed more emphasis on these areas than any other. So employers saying placing emphasis on critical thinking and analytical reasoning, complex problem solving and analysis, written and oral communication, application of knowledge and skills in the real world settings, the location, organization, evaluation of information from multiple sources, innovation and creativity. These are the same skills that liberal arts colleges seek to build in their students, right? That these are not only skills that are important for you as an individual, that not only are they beneficial to you, but they're things that employers are endorsing. And frankly, it's things they're looking for when they're hiring. The Committee for Economic Development asked, how important are applicants' knowledge and skills in an area, excuse me, essentially, what are the top five essential competencies when you're looking to hire someone? And their possible responses are able to range from essential to not important or not relevant. And so you see the chart on the right, ranking as essentials in dark blue, very important in lighter blue. And those top five skill sets that they're looking for: teamwork and collaboration, problem solving, working with others of diverse backgrounds, critical thinking, oral communication, right? So not only are these skills that liberal arts colleges have and seek to build in their students, it's what employers are endorsing, it's what they're looking for when they're hiring. And ultimately what this turns out to is really a long-term return on your investment. There was a really, really great study that was just done by Georgetown University Center on Education and the Workforce that looked at what was the ROI of going to a liberal arts college, well, actually all the colleges in general, and then they kind of were able to break it out and segment it. And so they found that for students who attend the 210 or so liberal arts colleges in the United States, they actually fare financially pretty much better when they enter the labor force. The median ROI for liberal arts colleges is almost $200,000 higher than the median for all colleges. So you see the liberal arts colleges here are in the middle where that arrow is, and they're right in the middle. They're actually ranked third highest overall in terms of our lifetime ROI. For median income 40 years after graduation, just behind the two types of universities with the highest level of research activity. And you can see that kind of spelled out there in that second bullet, that liberal arts colleges are actually faring better than engineering and technology related schools and four-year business and management schools. And coming behind just third overall. Should mention that net present value is just a way of saying how much a sum of money in the future is worth right now. So all of these dollar amounts are measured in net present value. So one of the most common misconceptions about the liberal arts and about liberal arts institutions is that we're too expensive. So I did want to talk about financial aid for just a second here. Checking on, see how I'm doing on time, doing well. So just kind of familiarize yourself with these financial aid forms. The free application for federal student aid, commonly referred to as the FAFSA. This is going to be a federal form that will typically get you, be able to have you considered for financial aid institutions from the federal government, as well as many state governments. Some institutions may also require the CSS profile, which comes from the College Board. There is a fee associated with the CSS profile. You tend to see that used at more private institutions than public. Some colleges may have their own institutional financial aid form. That's going to be specific to each institution type. And if you are an international student, you may be asked to fill out the International Student Financial Aid Application, or the ISFAA, the ISFA, as we like to call it. So these are kind of the main financial aid forms to be on the lookout for when you're applying to colleges and universities. Pretty much everyone will require the FAFSA, and then they may have a profile, an institutional form, or the ISFA if you're an international student. There are other aid opportunities. Be on the lookout for state financial aid. I know for Maryland, the Maryland Higher Education Commission has a number of scholarships and grant opportunities, both merit-based and need-based, some which require an application, some of which don't. So you definitely want to check their website for more information. These typically have a residency requirement, so you typically have to be a resident of the state, usually for, I believe, 5 years. And then there's also opportunities to look for outside scholarships. FastWeb is a great site, kind of a Google type search engine just for scholarships and financial aid. And the key with outside scholarships is start early and look broadly. Many of these have pretty substantial applications in terms of essays and things. And so you want to start looking at those early and getting as many of those applications in, even for the ones that are only a couple $100. I mean, don't overlook those opportunities, because many people do, right? Many people will overlook the $200, $300, $500 scholarship for the $10,000, the $20,000 scholarship. And that little bit of scholarship can help with books, can help cover part of a meal plan, transportation costs, costs associated with technology. So keep that in mind. When you're thinking about financial aid, or when you receive your financial aid award, there's kind of two basic types of financial aid. The first type being gift aid. This is scholarships, which typically are merit-based or talent-based, and grants, whether that's federal, state, or at the individual colleges. Gift aid is free money. It's the money that doesn't have to be paid back. So you want as much gift aid, as much scholarships and grants as you can get. And then there's self-help. This would be work study. So you receive federal work study, or you take an on-campus job. So this is money that you earn, or loans. This is borrowed money that you would eventually have to be paid back. So we call that self-help aid because you have to engage in some sort of work to do that. For the CTCL institutions, there are 44 different colleges and 44 different policies. And so deadlines do matter. Pay attention to deadlines. Many colleges will email their scholarship deadlines, email their scholarship applications. So you want to be cognizant of that. And just some things to know, less than 100 colleges nationwide will meet full need. So don't go into the college search expecting that you're going to get these full rides or full need packages. Only less than 100 actually are able to do that. And for most colleges to receive the most generous packages, those are going to students who have above average academics. And colleges tend to use financial aid as a means of wooing especially strong students to come to their institutions. But institutional priorities can also affect how aid is distributed. And so if they're looking to bring in a different kind of student, or more of a different kind of student, that might affect how aid is distributed. And then just also, again, going back to COVID for a second, kind of the impact that has had. So when you file your FAFSA, you're filing based on your prior year taxes. So if you're applying for colleges in the fall of 2022, it'll be using your 2020 taxes. And so if you've had a change since 2020 that impacts kind of your income or whatnot, you might be looking for opportunities for requests for professional judgments, or ways of kind of mitigating or explaining your situation to receive more aid if it has changed. I also want to talk for a second here about kind of the role of parents in the process. That's often what I get asked when I'm talking with or meeting with students and families, like, what should I do as a parent or as a family member? And so I have kind of 4 buckets that I like to think about what family members and parents can do. And so the first of these is listen. Sometimes that's all you have to do, is just listen. Don't feel that you always have to have that immediate answer. There is anxiety about the search, and hopefully I've kind of given you some tools here to help de-stress that a little bit. And even kind of thinking about the next step of college is common. One of the things, my favorite things to do when someone's kind of coming to me and they're stressed out, and they're talking, and one of the things I'll do is I'll stop and I'll say, do you want support or do you want a solution? Because those are different things, right? Do you want me to try and fix this problem for you? Do you want me to brainstorm and help you come up with a solution? Or are you just feeling really stressed out right now and all you need is support? So that's kind of this idea of listen, just kind of sitting back and listening to what your students are saying to you. But as much as you're listening, there is also opportunities to share. Share what you know about institutions that your students are thinking about or are considering. Avoid rumors though, share what you actually know. Don't share, oh, I heard someone down the street saying something about so-and-so. No, don't do that. But share what you do know about those institutions. If you did attend college, share your own experience about college and about the college search process. But just remember, a lot has changed probably since you were applying and going to college than when your students are. Feel free to suggest colleges. I would tell you, probably don't insist on a particular college. That'll likely backfire. But feel free to offer, I know you're interested in X, Y, and Z, and I heard about this really interesting college. You might want to take a look at it. The kind of third bucket, this idea of supporting and cheerleading, helping your student along, as they're, applying for admission, as they're applying for scholarships, helping them with their list of activities, helping them remember the things that they were involved in, the awards they received, the experiences that you've had, as a way to be a good supporter, kind of cheerleading them on. So you've done all these really great things. Make sure you get these things in your application, and that support role. One of the things that students tend to miss, and I kind of hinted at this in the previous slide, was this idea of kind of missing scholarship opportunities or missing visit programs because it's being emailed and the email got missed. So if you're a spreadsheet person like me, I love me some Microsoft Excel, I love me some Google Sheets. Creating a spreadsheet for with the colleges and their deadlines, required forms, big programs, scholarship deadlines. It's just a way of helping to keep your students organized. And then lastly, and probably the most important part of this process, or kind of role for families and parents in this process, is helping de-stress your students. One of the things I always suggest is choose a single time each week to talk about the college search, and try not to talk about it outside of this. I know it's an exciting time, and every time you go to a family gathering or you get on Zoom, or you're looking at colleges. Where are you looking at? What are you considering? What are you thinking about majoring in? Right? It becomes this kind of like, it adds to the stress. Frankly, it adds to the stress. So just choose that single time each week and say, all right, how's the search going? What colleges are you thinking about? What excites you about these? How are the applications coming along? And also create some college-free zones. The car, the dinner table. These are places where we don't talk about college no matter what. We don't talk about it in the car. We don't talk about it at the dinner table, and particularly focus in on those areas where a student may feel trapped in the conversation. Like, you're in the car and you bring up college and they're stuck there. They don't want to have that conversation. Again, that adds to the stress. So these are kind of 4 big roles that parents and family members can take on: listening to your students, sharing with your students, supporting and cheerleading them on, and also just trying to help de-stress that process as well. So I also wanted to talk about just briefly here, how can colleges that change lives help you and help your students as you move through this process? So College That Changed Lives is a nonprofit organization. You can see our mission statement here on the board, or on the PowerPoint here. And really our goal is to help students find colleges that help them develop a lifelong love of learning. Again, getting back to what are the benefits of going to a liberal arts college, that development of skills, that lifelong love of learning that prepares them for a lifetime of success. That really is our mission. We're here to support students, families, and counselors in this college search process. And really, again, at its core, being a student-centered, putting the student at the center of this process. As an organization, we got our start as a book, which was first published in 1996 by an author by the name of Lauren Pope. And there have been 4 versions of the book. The last version of that was in 2012, which is a revision of the book done by Hillary Maisel Oswald, which actually brought 4 new colleges into the book. The last revision that was done by Lauren was in 2006. About 2 years after the foundation of the book, the colleges that were listed in this book decided, like, what if we did some work together? What if we traveled and did college fairs and presentations for students and families around the country? And so we started that work in 1998, and we continue to do that. We haven't been able to do it last year, obviously, because of the pandemic, but we do typically do CTCL college fair tours all around the country. There's usually one in DC or in Bethesda each year. And so something to consider and look out for is when CTCL comes to town to learn more about these institutions. At the time that Lauren wrote the last version of the book, we noticed he started to get sick. And so that's when he was getting sicker and probably wasn't going to be around much longer. And so that's when we established the official nonprofit organization with the original 40. And then we invited the other 4 colleges that were part of the new edition to join us, with Bard being the most recent edition in 2018. And then we get to 2020, the world moves online while we all shelter in place. And so we're excited to be an organization. And so here's what we do. You know, our job, or kind of our goals are to kind of push back on this media frenzy about college admission. I referenced that a couple of times tonight, helping to de-stress students and families in this process, helping to kind of look beyond their rankings, look beyond US News and World Report, get at some of those kind of core components of the college experience that really make an institution a good choice or a good fit for students. Talk about the quality and the long-term benefits of a liberal arts education, and help support the recruitment of our member institutions. There are 44 colleges, 42 private and 2 public, representing 25 different states. And each of the, when you average out the enrollment at each institution, they're smaller schools, about 1,500 students at most of these institutions. And here's just a list of our institutions, and we believe that we just believe that each of these institutions provide value, and each is unique in kind of offering a way students to think about how they learn. For instance, with Hampshire and Evergreen, they allow students to mold their education by creating their own majors. Others are more structured with majors and minors. Cornell College offers 1 class at a time, and others have adopted that model as a response to COVID. Hiram has our Tech and Trek program, which looks at combining the tech and non-tech sides of our lives. Goucher, the institution that I work for, requires all of our students to study abroad. One of only 2 colleges in the country that have that requirement. We have an all-women's college in Agnes Scott, an all-men's college in Wabash. We have 1 Division I school, St. Mary's College of California, 2 Division II schools, Hillsdale in Michigan, Eckerd in Florida, and the rest of them are D3 institutions if they offer athletics. And as you see, what we have here is some really interesting variety within this group. And so I hope you'll take some time to check out these institutions, attend virtual sessions. We will be offering a CTCL virtual college fair March 23rd and 24th online, using what you may have heard of, the StriveScan 6x6 model. So you'll be able to hear from actually kind of modified version. We'll have 4 institutions going. So you'll be able to hear from about 4 institutions at one time. You can check our website for more information about that. It has been great to be able to kind of share some information with you. I hope that this has been helpful in some way in kind of de-stressing the search process, giving you some other ways of thinking about the college search. I am here as well as CTCL to help you in this search process. My email is right there on the screen, as well as the website for CTCL. We just launched a really great new college search tool, so you can search our member institutions by majors, by athletic programs, and a couple of other things, location, I think. And we also are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and all of our handles are at CTCL Colleges. So thank you for tuning in today and spending some time with us this afternoon. And I'm going to turn it over to Beth to see if we have any questions.
Hi, Chris. Yeah, that was a great presentation, great perspective, and wonderful tips along the way. You have definitely sparked some thoughts. So I'll read off a couple questions
Awesome.
as time permits. One that's come in: as a 10th grader now, when is the right time to start exploring and or researching colleges?
That's a great question. In 10th grade, I think the biggest thing that you can do for yourself right now is just kind of get a feel for what kinds of institutions are out there. I think early on, it's kind of about finding that kind of fit. Do I want big? Do I want small? Do I want a lot of research opportunities? Do I want to study abroad? Not thinking about, what do I want to major in, and, what specific job do I want to have, but just really starting at that broadest level of thinking about kind of what kinds of institutions speak to me. All of us here, I'm in Maryland as well, so we're all very lucky. You can't pretty much throw a rock and hit a college here somewhere. And so, take advantage, especially when things hopefully, fingers crossed, get back to normal as vaccinations and things roll out. Just visit, even if you're not really thinking about going to University of Maryland or to St. Mary's College or Goucher or Towson or UMBC. Like, take advantage of the fact that they're here. Go see what it's like to be at a 70, 80,000 person school versus a 1,500 person school, and kind of use that as a way of maybe guiding some of those early search processes. But you really don't, I think, have to start thinking about narrowing it down to a finite list until your spring semester, summer of spring semester of your junior year, that kind of summer going into the fall. You want to be refining that list as the application deadlines come up in that fall for your senior year. But yeah, in 10th grade, 9th grade, it's just really about exploring and figuring out what feels right to you, what feels like a place you'd want to call home for 4 years.
Okay. Another more specific question.
Yeah.
Should we be spending time and money prepping for SATs or ACTs if they won't be required and testing may be canceled?
The dreaded ACT question. I'm going to start my statement by prefacing it by saying my one hope in life is that College Board and ACT go bankrupt at some point, and I never have to hear the word SAT or ACT ever again. So just know my disdain for standardized testing out front, and that will probably help you color my remarks a little bit. It's hard to say. Is there value and benefit in preparing for these tests? Yes, I did it myself as a student. I did the practice tests. I took the book and studied it. Is there value in spending upteen hours of your life stressing over these little silly tests? No. I think you're going to see more and more institutions continue to be and remain test optional. And so that reliance on test scores really isn't going to be as important of a factor. And really for schools that do have test score requirements, I think what the pandemic is going to open up is really that valuing more of the other opportunities to understand a student's academic preparedness in the college application, looking at their transcript, the rigor of the classes that they've taken, their GPAs. These are, and not even just that single, what is the overall GPA? What is that GPA trend? Are they on upward trend, a downward trend? Are they consistent? Are they taking advantage of rigorous courses? These are things that are more important to colleges than the SAT or the ACT. There's a ton of research that will tell you that the SAT and the ACT tell you more about someone's wealth and their zip code than it does about the student behind the score. And so I think as we've moved through the pandemic, and particularly colleges that have really overly relied on test scores in previous years and don't have that ability this year, have really seen kind of, oh, wait, I don't actually need the SAT to find high quality, good students who are going to be good matches for my institution. So yes, you should prepare for the SAT, the ACT. If you're going to take those exams, you shouldn't just walk into it blindly. Get one of those test books, take a practice exam, but don't devote tons and tons of time of your life to that. Go walk in prepared. My suggestion, what I did, which is my favorite because most schools will super score, prep for one section of the exam. If you're taking the SAT, like focus on studying for the evidence-based reading and writing section, go in, take that section, and then study for the math section and take the maths, then focus heavily on the math section the next time you go. And I was able, good way for me to boost my math score, which was not my strongest subject.
Okay. Another family has asked, I'd love my students to consider a liberal arts institution, but they are not interested. Do you have a suggestion about how to get them to consider a liberal arts school?
Don't tell them it's a liberal arts school. There's actually some really interesting studies out there that students who look at an institution being described without the words liberal arts love it. They're so into it. You describe the institution using the same descriptors, but you include the word liberal arts, and the students are like, I don't want to go there. And so there's this really interesting, like, just the words liberal arts for some students is a trigger to turn them off from an institution. As I mentioned, being a first-gen college student, I didn't know what a liberal arts college was. I accidentally went to one. And so, sometimes it's just about going, doing the tour, seeing a place. Hey, why don't we go check out this school? It's a little bit smaller, but they have some really great opportunities for research. You really get to know your professors. There's tons of things to get involved in. And maybe that's a way of kind of getting a student to look at or think about a liberal arts college without saying, hey, let's go check out this liberal arts college. I can tell you that was a really fascinating study that we all looked at when we were redoing marketing and branding of like, oh, wow, they don't want it to be called liberal arts. But that's who we are. So, it's kind of a little catch-22 there.
A family has asked, my son is planning early graduation in 3 years.
Mhm.
How will it affect his college admissions?
Yeah, I mean, it's a catch-22, and granted, I should preface all of these things by saying it really depends on the institutions that you're considering. At the end of the day, I really can only speak for Goucher. I can't even speak for the other 43 members of CTCL, because I don't work at those schools. So every institution's policy is going to be a little bit different. For students who are graduating early, we want to see a reason, typically why. What was it about, why did they choose to graduate early? Are they doing, they want to do a gap year before going into college, but didn't want to be like a year age-wise behind their peers? What were, was there some experience that they wanted to accomplish? If they were really eager to get into college and college life, you know, where some colleges may see an issue is in looking at their kind of rigorous foundation, because a student who's done 3 years of high school typically hasn't taken all of the same number of classes as a student who's participated in all 4 years of high school. So while you may be able to meet all of the graduation requirements in 3 years, you don't have that extra, those couple extra AP classes or the honors this class or the elective courses that kind of continue to build up that kind of rigor from when looking at a transcript of like, the number of academic courses a student has taken. So I don't think there's no guarantee that it's going to be a negative impact. I think for the right student, graduating early is the right choice. And so it's really about your student. And again, ultimately in all of these things and all of the choices you get to make about high school and colleges want context. What you kind of, when you're thinking about, and I didn't get into too much in kind of application stuff because you guys are still a little ways away from that. But when you get to the point of applying to colleges, there are a lot of opportunities within the Common App to provide context to why you made certain choices. Why did you choose to graduate early? If you check off did or will graduate early, there's actually a required question that Common App produces that you have to respond to. So there's your chance. Why did you graduate early? Make sure you're completing that. Or if you switched high schools, there's a section for why did you switch high schools? Taking the time to explain that. Your worst enemy in your college application is leaving it up to the college admissions counselor to guess why you made a certain choice or you didn't do well in a certain class. So err on the side of over explaining or oversharing in your application so that you're not leaving the counselor reviewing your file guessing as to why you made a certain choice or have a certain grade or stopped a certain activity.
Why don't we do, I think, let's do one more question.
Okay.
What about the financial health of these institutions? Where can you find that information?
Yeah, I mean, there's not that I know of one source you could go in and kind of search for every institution's kind of financial health. What you want to be looking at is how the colleges are talking about the future. It's kind of a big key. Are they engaging in a strategic plan? Are they thinking about 5-6 years down the road? Are they doing construction or renovation? Are they planning new majors or new programs? The colleges that maybe aren't as financially well off might not be doing some of those things because they're trying to balance the budget. Colleges do receive bond ratings. S&P does do bond ratings for colleges. So that's a place to look. And frankly, I mean, if you have a question about a specific institution, just ask them. I can tell you I've gotten that question before as a college admissions counselor, and I'm very happy to speak to that when asked about it.
Great. Well, you've done an amazing job. This has been super, like such an overarching perspective on the college search. And then I've heard I have 3 kids, and I have heard a lot of tricks and tips that you gave tonight that I hadn't heard before. So that's wonderful. And I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Rachel, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, we're going to throw up 2 more presentation feedback questions. And I would just like to say one takeaway, Chris, was, I wrote it down, was when your student is stressed, ask the question, do you want support or do you want a solution? So that's a great takeaway. And thank you very, very much.
Thanks for having me.
And Betsy, did you throw up those questions? Ah, okay, great.
Just so everyone knows, I can see the poll results, and that was terrifying for a moment. So I'm very happy to see that 98% of you said it was helpful.
And
Thank
then
you. Thank
the
you.
last question, you know, we usually meet, we alternate between BCC, WJ, and Whitman. This year was supposed to be in our auditorium. But hey, maybe this kind of situation is better. We have, again, over 400 people. So do you like it virtual, or should we get back together, or do both? So please answer that. And we'll show you guys for inquiring minds.
So far, it's overwhelmingly in favor of virtual.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And also, I will add that everyone found the presentation to be very helpful. So thank you very much, Mr. Wild. I'm going to share the results for the virtual versus
wow.
in person. 89% favor doing it virtually. So I guess listening to this in your slippers is maybe preferable to listening to it in your heels after
Right.
work.
I
And,
did the presentation wearing my slippers, so I agree.
and the last thing I want to say, as a mom of 2 college kids and then a 10th grader, one thing that when we searched schools, they said to ask, is it a 1 earbud school or 2 earbud schools? When you go around the campus,
Ooh.
the kids like to look at the other kids. Are they have both sets of the AirPods on and totally immersed with their own? Or are they making eye contact and kind of schmoozing? So that's something to think about. But
I'm gonna steal that. I like that.
Yeah. So thank you for all these tips. And if people have questions, this will be on replayed on all the websites, and then you can reach out to Mr. Wild or any one of us.
Yeah. And if you had a question that we didn't get to in the chat or in the Q&A and you really do want an answer, feel free to use my email address. I'm happy to respond to those questions.
Terrific. All right. Thank you all for coming, and we hope
Thank you.
to see you soon.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks.